Welcome back to English 4.0, the radio show. Let's go! Advanced. Hello and welcome back to the show. Welcome to class number 107, the advanced portion of the class now. And prior to starting this part of the show, I taught the intermediate portion. We had the intermediate portion for 20 minutes, and prior to that, prior to the intermediate portion, you may have been listening to the beginner portion because we do all three levels, right? All three levels every day, and we're going to start with that structure prior to plus gerund, which is a review of what we saw yesterday in class number 106. Some facts here. This is true. I'm not lying to you. I worked in a bank prior to coming to Spain. I did. I worked in a bank. I worked for a bank in Canada prior to coming to Spain. I studied business prior to becoming an English teacher. Prior to becoming an English teacher. I lived in Canada. Then I came to Spain. So obviously you can say that I lived in Canada prior to coming to Spain. I moved to Holland, then I moved to Spain. Holland, also known as the Netherlands, where the Dutch people live. The Netherlands, Holland. I moved to Holland, then I moved to Spain. So I moved to Holland prior to moving to Spain. Now, my brother lived in Russia before moving to Malaysia. My brother has worked all over the place. We say all over the place, in many different places. He has worked in many different places. And he lived in Russia before moving to Malaysia. So we can say that he lived in Russia prior to living in Malaysia. He also lived in Korea prior to living in Malaysia. Now, were cassette tapes popular prior to the invention of the CD? Yes, they were. They were popular prior to the invention of the CD, sure. Did you watch the TV program prior to listening to the radio show? The TV program or the TV show. Did you watch the TV show prior to listening to the radio show? Did you? Because you know that the material that I'm talking about is on the television today. I'm following the exact same material. This material will appear on television today on Aprende Inglés. That's right. Yeah. So did you watch it already? Did you watch the TV program prior to listening to the radio show? Did you listen to Jim Trainer's radio show prior to listening to this one? Yes, Kyle, I listened to Jim Trainer's radio show prior to listening to this one. Now, yesterday I mentioned how Alaska was part of Russia prior to becoming part of the United States, and that's true. Yeah, Alaska belonged to Russia, and it was sold to the United States in 1867 for only, well, I mean, back then I guess it was a lot of money, but it was only $7.2 million. And the Secretary of State at the time was named William Seward, and he took a lot of, as we say, to take flack. Means to receive some negative press, some negative publicity about his actions. And in this case, he took some flack over the purchase of Alaska because they said, it's cold, it's north, it's so far north, what are you going to do with it? Because it seemed like a foolish expense. But later, in just a few years later, in the 1890s, let's say, after gold was found there, they started to think, hey, not such a bad idea. And they founded the Alaska Highway, which went from the U.S. right up through the west coast of Canada, through the province of British Columbia, into the Yukon, which is a northern territory of Canada, and into Alaska. And in the 1890s, and in that period, they had what they called the gold rush, which was when they found significant amount of gold there, and so people started traveling up there to try to get rich, finding gold. And they used to pan for gold. They call it panning because they have a pan, and they'd put some stones, and they'd go to a river and put the stones in the river and swish them around, and the stones and the water would fall out, but the gold, because of its weight, if there was any gold there, would stay in the pan. And yeah, they found a lot of gold there, panning for gold. And so then they said, okay, this guy's seaward, not bad. You got some land, but now the gold isn't such a big deal there, but they are finding oil, which I suppose is a bit controversial. Their drilling practices may be a bit controversial, but they have found significant oil deposits there, and it's a strategic place as well for military and observation purposes and so on. There you go, Alaska. So prior to being part of the United States, yes, Alaska was part of Russia. Okay, now we can talk about the word until, because I didn't get much time to talk about this. I haven't had time until now. Yeah, and I want to mention the difference between until and up to. Okay? Until is followed by a point in time. Okay? So we use, in the sense of hasta, un punto en el tiempo. Until a day, a month, a year. I lived in Canada until 2003. No, yes, 2003. Then I lived in Holland until the end of 2003, and then I moved to Spain. Yes. So until followed by a period of time, hasta. Grammatically, it's very simple. I don't think it's necessary to drill this very much because it's not very, very hard. But what I want to explain is the difference between until and up to. So up to is used for hasta in the sense of everything else other than time. So with a book, I read up to page 65. Up to. I saw, let's say, a television series. A lot of people follow these TV series, and you can say, I saw up to the 5th episode. Capítulo, which is episode. When we talk about television or radio, we say episode. And with a book, we say chapter. I read up to chapter 15, and I saw, with the television series, up to page 85. So hasta can be up to when we're talking about pages in a book or episodes in a series, for example. Or I watched up to 1 hour and 27 minutes. I listened to up to minute number 15 of your radio show, Kyle, for example. Okay, so I'll be here until the end of the show. This show will be on the air until 6 o'clock. Yes, and on Fridays, on Mondays and Fridays, my other show, The Verb Circus, is on the air until 6:30, from 6 to 6:30. Yes. Now today, will you pay attention until the end of the show? Are you paying attention? Of course I am. Oh, thank you. Will you pay attention until the end of the show? Will you listen? Will you listen to every episode until the course is over? Yes, Kyle, I'll listen to every episode until the course is over. All right. Expression of the day. All right, it is time for our expression of the day. The expression of the day today is down the drain. Down the drain. We have in the bathroom, we have our sink. Or in the kitchen sink, and we run the water and it goes down the system of tubes, the drain. It went down the drain. But to go down the drain means it failed. We had such a brilliant plan, and then everything was going well, and then all of a sudden it went down the drain. The economy turned sour. It went bad, and the business went down the drain. Our plans went down the drain. They failed. To go down the drain, essentially to fail. That's our expression of the day. All right, moving on now into class number 107, we have two words that I'd like to practice. Slightly, ligeramente, slightly, a little bit, slightly, and considerably, considerablemente, considerably, yes. I'm feeling considerably better than I was yesterday. Yesterday I was slightly tired. I felt slightly ill yesterday. But I took some vitamins, I had a good meal and a good sleep, and I'm feeling considerably better. I am feeling considerably better, yes. I'm a tall person. I don't know if you've seen me, but some of you that know me, you know that I am a tall guy. But my brother is slightly taller than me. Yeah. What about Michael Jordan? Is Michael Jordan slightly taller or considerably taller than Danny DeVito? Oh, Michael Jordan is considerably taller than Danny DeVito. Danny DeVito is very short. He's considerably shorter than me, and he's definitely considerably shorter than Michael Jordan. Now, is Canada slightly bigger or considerably bigger than the United States? Because it is bigger. Canada is slightly bigger than the United States. It's a big country. Yeah, Canada is a very big country, but it is slightly bigger than the United States because the United States is a very, very big country as well. Now, are you slightly slower or significantly or considerably slower than Carl Lewis? Oh, Kyle, I'm considerably slower than Carl Lewis. Carl Lewis is considerably faster than me, when it comes to running, at least. Mm-hmm. Now, is Tom Cruise slightly more famous than, let's say, Alberto Alonso, or considerably more famous than Alberto Alonso? Oh, Tom Cruise is considerably more famous, yes. Tom Cruise is known everywhere, yes. He's considerably more famous. Now, what about Eric Clapton? Is Eric Clapton a considerably better guitar player than you? Or just a slightly better guitar player? Or maybe you're better than him. I don't know. I've never heard you play guitar. No, Kyle. Eric Clapton is a considerably better guitar player than I am. Now, is Australia significantly bigger than Switzerland? Is it considerably bigger than Switzerland, or slightly? Significantly, we could say, or considerably. We could say either one. Australia is considerably bigger than Switzerland. Yeah. It's considerably bigger than Switzerland. What about Nicaragua? Is Spain considerably richer than Nicaragua, or slightly richer? Spain is considerably richer than Nicaragua. Yeah, it is. All right, very good. Let's move on now to our vocabulary of the day. Vocabulary of the day. Yes, it is time now for the vocabulary of the day. Our 5 words of vocabulary. The first word, entusiasmo. In English, we say enthusiasm. Enthusiasm. And someone who exhibits enthusiasm is enthusiastic. Are you enthusiastic about learning English? Do you have great enthusiasm about learning? And the second word is renacuajo, which is a tadpole. Tadpole, yes. It will become a frog someday. Renacuajo, tadpole. Terciopelo, velvet. Velvet, we say, velvet. En ultramar. Oh, he moved overseas. Overseas, with an S, overseas. So if you're from North America and you move to Europe, well, you've just moved overseas. Or if you're European and you move to North America or to Australia, then you have moved overseas. The last word, ser goloso. In English, we say to have a sweet tooth. To have a sweet tooth. That's right. I have a sweet tooth. I like candy and sweets. I'm sure I do. I definitely have a sweet tooth, we say. Okay, so we've just seen our 5 words of vocabulary. And the next thing we have here in class number 107 is our translation list. But we're going to leave that for tomorrow because we're running out of time. So tomorrow, I promise you, we will be back with translation list number 32, a little review of what we saw today, and so much more. So I hope you'll join me tomorrow. Until then, well, have a great day, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.